Hey everyone, making this video took a lot of effort, so if you find it helpful, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with your fellow developers also. Let me know in the comments what you like, or if you have any questions, I would love to hear from you. Now let's dive into the top Laravel security tips and demos to protect your applications from hackers. In this section, we are going to learn why it's important to add your sensitive data like API keys, database configurations, and any other sensitive data inside your .env. In here, as you guys can see, I have a weather controller where I get my data from an external source, and it also have an API ID, or I have to add the key. Now, imagine if I hard code the API key in here and save it. Okay, let's fix this. Save this and push this into my GitHub. So let's push this also. Now, because this repo is public, anyone have access to this, they can easily see it. Now, if I go to my project, as you guys can see, this project is public. Now, if I open this and go to my app folder, let's go to inside our app folder, HTTP controllers, and open our controller in here. Now, as you guys can see in here, the changes that I brought, everyone can see it because it's public. The best solution for this is to add the information that you need inside your inside your .env and access it inside your controller or anywhere you want. For example, like this env and the key name, and you can also do copy this key without the value inside your .env example, so other developers can know this what to add. In this section, we are going to know why it's important to hash or encrypt your users' sensitive data when you save them inside your database. So let's see this with a demo. Let's zoom this in here. As you guys can see, I have an input field where the users can type their sensitive data, for example, their social security number or their password or their PIN code, any very sensitive data that no one should have access to this. Now, if I click save, it will save to my database and everyone can see it. And also, if someone else, another developer or somebody else, or your database get leaked, uh, just by selecting, it will display your sensitive data in a plain text. Anyone can see it, and they can also change it. They can do anything with this they want. To protect from this kind of attack, what we have can do is to hash this or encrypt it. So let's see first of all with the hashing. So let's go back to our project, and in here, instead of saving it directly to our database, we are going to make a hash of this and then save it to our database. So by just calling hash make, then we can hash it. So now let's go back to our project. In here, let's add another text, save. Now, as you guys can see, it has been hashed, so nobody can understand what is this. And even if they come inside our database, it's been hashed in here also. But there are scenarios that you don't want to hash this. You want to display to the actual user, to the user whose data is this. So what you can do is to encrypt it and then decrypt it when you read it from the database. So let's go back to our project in here, and instead of hash, you just, let's comment this too. You just use crypt and encrypt and add your text in here. Now, if we go to our project and let's type anything in here, click save. Now, as you guys can see, our text has been encrypted. And if you want to display this, you can use, let's scroll down. you can use crypt decrypt. Let's comment this right now, save this, and let's go back, click show. As you guys can see, it will show your text as it was without changing anything. And inside the database also, if I select, you guys can see it has been encrypted. The good thing about this kind of the encryption and decryption is that this depends on your app key, which is located inside your .env. And even if your database get leaked, or you give it to any other person, if your project app key does not match, it will not show you the data. For example, let's change some one character or two character from here. So let's change this, click save, and also let's run php artisan, optimize, clear. Now if I go to my browser in here and refresh my page, then click the show button, now I get this message: the Mac is invalid. And another good thing about this, even if your app key is not changed, let's undo this. Let's run optimize again. Now this time let's change our data from our database. So right now we can read our data, and if I come here and change my any text from here, for example, let's add something in here and save this. Now let's go back, let's refresh. Now again, as you guys can see, I get another error which says the payload is invalid. So every time you save any user sensitive data inside your database, try to hash it or encrypt it. In this part, we are going to learn why it is very important to set your app debug to false always when your application is in production. So if I come to my browser, as you guys can see, everything is working fine, and I can click save. Now for example, if suddenly I click a link which has a bug or any problem, now I get this error page. And if I scroll down in here, as you guys can see, it will show a lot of information about my project to the hacker, and the hacker can use it to hack your application. For example, in here, as you guys can see, I get the token, and version, PHP version, Laravel version, and even I can see my SQL query in here. So these are very sensitive data. You should always set your app debug to false when your application is in production. Another thing that I want to mention is handling your errors if anything happens. For example, in here, if I click show and change the ID from something that is not available in my database and enter, I will get 404 not found. Either you can customize this error page and make your own custom error page, or i- if you go in here, you can use try catch. For example, in here, you can write try and inside your try you can add your code in here. Then if anything happens, so we can catch it. Then inside here, you guys can use model not found exception and log the error inside your log file. So in here you can say log info or error, then you can log it inside your log file. Let's see, and return back with an error message. So we can say return, redirect, and back, then with our error message like error, and we can say the core not found. And if you want, you can add another catch block in here. So let's add this one also. This time we are going to use exception. So let's type exception, and this time also let's log it and return a custom message in here. So let's type something, for example, error happened. Now if we go back in here, let's go back and back also. Now let's click this and change this to something which is not in our database. Press enter. As you guys can see, we are redirected back to our page. And if you handle it in your front page, so let's copy this here. For example, you can also display the text in here. For example, let's change it to 50. Enter. Now as you guys can see, I got record not found and it redirects me back to original page without showing any sensitive data. And for the developers, if you want to see what happened, you can always go to your log files. So if you go to inside your storage folder, logs, and open laravel.log, in here you guys can see all the details why this error has happened. For example, no query reserve for model. So always try to use try and catch block. Another thing that I want to mention is to always use back-end validations. It's very important even than front-end validation. For example, in here, the text that I have, if I click save, I get a validation error that says that please fill out this form. It's a front-end validation. So the user can easily bypass this one by just right-clicking and selecting the inspect, then removing the validation. So if I remove this, come back, click save. Now as you guys can see, my data has been saved successfully, but it's empty. It has been saved to my database, and if I click here, now a record has been created. To prevent this, you should always use back-end validation. So let's go and uncomment this section, save this, and let's refresh. Let's go and remove the required validation from here. Now let's click save. Now as you guys can see, I got a message that the text field is required, and this message came from the backend. So the user, the hacker, cannot disable this one. They have to fill this field. So now let's click save. Now it's save and I have data. Now if I go back, as you guys can see, my data has been saved in here the way I want. So you should never trust the user input. You have to always use back-end validations. It's very important, even more important than front-end validations. In this part, we are going to learn how we can prevent SQL injection in our Laravel application. As you guys can see in here, I have a raw SQL inside my database where I select all the countries where name match the request that we get from the user. And we also add and conditions and set the order number should be greater than 50 and only bring 3 records. So let's see it in our project. Let's refresh here. Now this is the part where I use that raw SQL. So let's click here. As you guys can see, and the first time it only brings 3 records, and if I search for something, for example Germany, I only get 3 characters, and if I type, still 3 records found. But what the hackers can do in here, instead of typing exactly what they want, they just type this O1 is equal to 1 and hash. As you guys can see in here, it brings all the countries that are available inside my database table without taking that conditions that we wrote inside our query. As you guys see, the hacker can see all the list of my countries. Imagine if you have the users table or any other table that you don't want the hackers or anyone to see instead of his own data. So uh, they can easily access all the record all the data inside your table by just typing this. So to prevent this, just stop using raw SQL inside your Laravel project. Always use Eloquent or Query Builders So let's comment this out, and in here let's add our query builder. So in here, as you guys can see, I added the name, and I can add also another condition in here. My second condition, where order number greater than 50, and let's add the limit also. So let's type here limit 3. Now let's go back to our project in here. Let's refresh. Now we got our 3 characters, and if the user, the hacker, type something like this, or 1 is equal to 1 hash hash, nothing comes out. So this is the advantages of using the eloquent instead of using raw SQL. It will prevent the SQL injection in your database or inside your tables. Now, in this section, you will learn about cross-site scraping. Cross-site scraping is a common vulnerability in which attackers inject malicious JavaScript into your application. If user input are not properly sanitized, this script can run in the victim browser, stealing sensitive information like cookies or session, or even perform unwanted action. But before we start, I want to thank the debug for finding this vulnerability inside my project, where a lot of you clone it. So thanks to the debug for finding this. So let's start. So in here I have a input where the users can add their data. For example, if an hacker in here writes something like JavaScript code, for example, script. Now for here, just for a demo, let's say hacked, and close the script in here. Then click the save button. Now in this page, as you guys can see, nothing happened. It just displayed the script. But if I click the show button in another page, now here I got this pop-up where it says hacked. So let's see the difference between this page and this page, what I did in this page and what I did different in this page. So now if I open my project, as you guys can see, this is my first page. In here I read the data like this using these 2 brackets, where but in another page that the script runs, I read the data like this, which this type does not sanitize my data, and it will run the JavaScript. So don't ever use this to display the user data. Always use double brackets. So let's delete this one, add one more bracket here, and also another one in here. Now let's save. Let's go back. Okay. Now let's click show again. So as you guys can see, now it just display the text without running the JavaScript. So this is how you can sanitize the JavaScript, so the hackers cannot hack or steal the sensitive information of your users. Again, thanks to the debug for finding this vulnerability inside my application. Now, in this part, we are going to learn and see how an attacker can attack our application using dictionary attack, and how we can prevent it. So in here, as you guys can see, I have a login function where it checks username and the password of the user, and if both are correct, it will display a login message. Otherwise, it will say an invalid message. And I am serving this function using an API. So anyone can use Postman or any application to send their login credential to this API, and it will check. So let's open a Postman in here, and in here I already have an email and password. When I click send to my application, I get a response of login successful. Now if I change it to something, the password to wrong password, I will get invalid credential. Now let's see how an attacker can attack using dictionary attack. So let's set our email and password to variables. So in Postman, if you want to set your field to variables, you will do something like this. Now let's save this. Now after that, we need a dictionary because we are going to use a dictionary to attack. So we need a list of all username and passwords that we think of. I already created such a dictionary in here with me. So in here, as you guys can see, I have credential.csv and it contains all the list of email addresses and passwords that I think it will match to our database or to the victim database. Now let's go back to our Postman and upload this dictionary. So let's open this. In Postman, in the down, you guys can see it's click runner. So let's click this. Now in here it asks us for the collection, so we have to upload our collection in here. Let's drag and drop it. Now after that, we have to select our dictionary. So let's select dictionary. Now in here it says that we have 112 username and password. So let's scroll down and click the run button. Now as you guys can see, it's running all of them in here and a lot of them are getting unauthorized. So we will wait until the all of them are finished. Okay, so our runner is finished. Now in here, as you guys can see, in a lot of the response I got unauthorized, but there are some success in here. As you guys can see, I got 200. Okay, so let's click this one and click the request. As you guys can see, this is the password, username and password that got success. So it means we have successfully attacked and hacked our application and fetched the username and password of a user. Now to prevent such kind of attack, we have two options. Either in our login controller, in here in our login method, we have to use rate limiter like this. Create a rate limiter in here and uh, tell him that how many numbers of tries we want to give the user before it give us them too many login attempts. And in here, if the login is successful, clear the request. Then if it's fail, then we have to hit or increment it by 1 for each. Now let's save this. Let's go back and let's rerun our test. So run again. Now as you guys can see, I'm getting too many requests in each request. Just the 5 requests have been passed and the rest are I'm getting too many requests. So let's stop it here. And the second option, so let's undo this from here. The second options that we have is in our API, we have to use a middleware called Throttle. So this middleware, it needs two parameter. The first parameter is how many requests it should allow. Then another parameter is within how much time. So in here we are saying that allow 5 requests per minute. So let's save this one also. Now let's go back and let's go to our Postman, rerun our test. Okay, unauthorized. Now after 5 requests, as you guys can see in here, again I got too many requests. So this is how you can prevent from dictionary attack by limiting the request per minute. Now, in this section, we are going to talk about a very important topic, which is unrestricted file upload vulnerability. But before I start continuing, first I want to thank the debug for finding this vulnerability inside my GitHub repo and telling me how we can fix it. So, what is unrestricted file upload vulnerability? The unrestricted file upload vulnerability is when you upload a file with you allow a user to upload a file without validation, or allowing PHP script to run in the background. So as a demo in here, as you guys can see, I have this method inside my controller that takes the file from the users and save that file inside public folder, uploads folder. That much it. So what an attacker can do in here, he can upload any malicious PHP script to our server, and he can do anything he want, either delete, run a malicious script, or anything that you can imagine an attacker can do. It is very dangerous. So let's see a demo of what an attacker can do. So in here, now I'm just going to use this GitHub repo with the name of Tiny File Manager, and I'm just going to download this. Once it download, I'm going to upload the same file to my project. Now let's upload this, open, save. It has been saved. Now what an attacker can do in here, it's just change the URL to uploads and give it the file name with the PHP. Enter. Now as you guys can see, this is my project. This is the tiny file manager that the attacker added. And if I open this, so let's open this. In here I have the username and password also. So let's type this admin and admin at 123. Click sign in. Okay. So now as you guys can see, you can see everything and do anything that he wants inside my project. You can see my assets, bundles, files, images, sounds. You can delete them. You can rename them or anything you want. And also he can upload any file in here you want. Now imagine this is just a file manager that I have uploaded. Imagine if an attacker can upload a very dangerous code where it steals your database information, users, or upload a virus to your server. It will be a disaster. So now let's see how we can prevent this. For that, let's go to our VS Code. In here, we just have to add a validation. So in here, we will validate the request, and we will say we need an image. It should be required, and the type should be file. Another validation that we are going to type add is memes, and it should be JPEG image, PNG image, or even you can add a PDF. Even you can also validate the size of the image, how much MB or GB it should be. So in here I am going to just say it should be a maximum of 2 MB. So this is how you can prevent it from uploading a malicious PHP code. Another thing you can do is, instead of saving it to your public folder, you should save it inside your storage folder. That would be also a very good option. So this is it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions, write it down in the comments, and don't forget to press the subscribe and like button. See you guys in the next video.